That's the, okay, thank you. What did I just had the thing here. It was the thing. Oh, man. Excuse me. Okay. Jeez. Got it. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee. We'll start with a roll call. Mr. Sarsfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Campbell.
Right here.
Councillor Jen Schmidt-Rempel.
Here.
Councillor Carlson.
Present.
Councillor Palladino.
Here.
All members of the committee are in attendance, so we have quorum.
Great, thank you. We'll start with the adoption of the agenda. This is from Councillor Palladino. Be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee on Thursday, January 20th, 2022 be adopted as presented. Questions been called? All in favor? Okay.
You gotta do the reconciliation statement.
Oops. I haven't done that yet, have I? Sorry about that. And we've got the agenda, but we'll also do the acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people, past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge is also the home to the Métis Nation of Alberta 3. All right, let's continue with consent agenda. A resolution from Councillor Jen Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee held on Wednesday, December the 1st, 2021 be approved, and the Chair and City Clerk designate be authorized to sign the same. Jen.
Call the question. Question's
been called. In favor? Opposed? Carried. Let us begin with presentations. And I understand that Councillor Carlson is here and you're ready to introduce our first presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to members of the committee, administration for allowing Green Acres a few minutes to present. Before we begin, on behalf of the board of Green Acres, I do want to wish everyone a very happy new year. And since it's the first time the board has presented to this council, also congratulate you on your elections and re-elections. As I said, I am Jeff Carlson, the chair of the Green Acres Foundation board, so I'm wearing a different hat for this part of the meeting. With me today is our CEO, Ms. Donna Koslavi. And we're hopefully going to be very brief, but we just wanted to sort of touch base with you all. As I'm sure you're aware, Green Acres Foundation is governed by a board of 9 directors, which are appointed by our 7-member municipalities. And once appointed, our fiduciary duty is to the foundation in general, rather than to our individual facilities or our municipalities. As a little side, I'd like to thank you for your reappointment of myself and Councillor Parker, and the new appointment of Councillor Dodick. We're in the middle of several projects, as you were made aware of earlier this week, one of them at least, and there's a lot of heavy lifting going on. Each year, our board does undertake a strategic planning exercise where we take the opportunity to confirm and explore our mission, our vision, our values, and our 5 key strategic priorities. Out of that, we do create an annual business plan which guides our work. In front of you, we did give you our report to the community, so I'm not going to read that all to you. I just want to highlight a few things. Our mission, Green Acres Foundation, our mission is to provide affordable housing and quality services responsive to the needs of our clients. Our 5 key strategic pillars are raising our organizational profile, being a great place to live for all of our residents and clients, a great place to work for all of our staff, ensuring organizational sustainability, and finally building and strengthening our alliances and partnerships. And that's why we're here today. Our board wants to strengthen our connections with our member municipalities, as you are our key partners. So that's enough from me. I'm going to turn it over to our CEO, Donna Koslavi. She is the brains behind the organization that keeps everything moving along so smoothly and excellently. So Donna is here to provide a little bit more information. I'll turn it over to you, Donna.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of Green Acres, thank you very much for allowing us the short time just to let you know a little bit about what the foundation does. For many of you, you may have a family member or loved one, or you've had some experience, but for some of you, you might not have. So I just want to take a few minutes. We've been around since 1960, and we're very proud of that. We're locally born and bred, and so I think that is a terrific thing. The other thing is we are fairly large. We have over 400 employees, 22 different sites. And again, that a lot of people don't realize that we do have sites all over in southern Alberta. One of the things, seniors housing has evolved. Back in 1960, when we were first established, a senior that was 67, 68, that was really a senior. Nowadays, our average age is about 85. So times have changed. People are more independent. People are living longer. They are healthier, which is terrific. But the need for seniors housing has not changed. Back 61 years ago, the province determined that there was a need for seniors housing because there was nothing between someone living in their home and then they would go to the hospital and then maybe go to long-term care. There was nothing in between. So the government of the day thought that, okay, let's take a look at this seniors housing in the province. And Lethbridge was very fortunate in that we were chosen to have one of the very first lodges established in the province. And that was built at the location right adjacent to the Galt Museum. It's no longer there. We did take it down and we rebuilt Pemmican Lodge on the same land in 1999. But that was our humble beginnings. From that time, we started off with 30 some units. Now we house up to 1,000 seniors. And we also offer different levels of care. We offer everything from apartment buildings for seniors that are independent. They take care of their own needs. What we provide for them is subsidized housing, but we also provide the maintenance. No longer do they have to snow shovel, things like this, cut lawns. But they also have this social interaction because they're living in an apartment setting. So we have that. Then we have lodges where people are, again, independent, but we provide a little bit more service. We offer weekly housekeeping services, complete meal service. We have full-time activity coordinators or rec therapists at each lodge site so that the residents there can have activities that are going to fulfill their spiritual, their physical, their mental needs. So that's the lodge. Then in 1999, we went into partnership with Alberta Health Services to provide what we call SL3. And again, it was to bridge the gap between what a lodge service was and then long-term care. Again, huge gap. So we looked back then, partnered with the then Chinook Health Region to have SL3 lodges where we have 24-hour personal care aides. So again, as a person, their frailties start to escalate, they still don't have to go into a long-term care. Then we also now have SL4, which is where we have professional nursing, and we have SL4D, which are secure units for those folks that have dementias or a wander risk. So we have every level of care for our seniors. But we know that the seniors population in Lethbridge is growing faster than the province. So one of the things that this board, the Green Acres board, is very passionate about is to ensure that going forward into the future, we will have the housing that is necessary for this community. And so we've been able to partner with, continue our partnerships with Alberta Health Services. We are currently working on a convent project. I shouldn't call it the convent project. We purchased the convent on 18th Street South, and we're converting it to seniors apartments. And we're very, very thankful that we were able to get some funding through the city's affordable housing grant. Again, I think it shows the willingness of this city to help out for the housing for their citizens. So we're really looking forward to that one, and we should be, although it looks the same on the outside right now, there's a lot going on inside. So we hope by the perhaps summertime, we'll be able to roll that one out. We are also, again, very proactive at purchasing land so that we are ready for the future. We're here for the city. We want to be here for the city. So we do have land now secured on the west side, south side, and also on the north side for the future needs of this community. One of the things that you might see, and I might as well hit the nail on your tax bill if you're a homeowner, you're going to see a little line on there. It says Green Acres Foundation. And under the Alberta Housing Act, we are somewhat like the schools, okay? The province has always thought that it is the Albertans' responsibility for children and seniors. And so under the Alberta Housing Act, Green Acres has requisitioning authority. So in other words, what this means is the board of directors for Green Acres, we determine what the requisition will be every year. And then that goes to the 7 municipalities that make up our board. And then it's divided up by equalized assessment. But just so that you don't feel left out, or you're questioning, every Albertan pays to some sort of seniors foundation. So every Albertan does pay for seniors housing, just like the school tax. Okay. Other than that, folks, we would be very, very welcoming. If you ever want to know more information about Green Acres, we appreciate the time that you've given us. Don't want to take a whole bunch of your time, but I think if any time we can take the opportunity to let people know that what Green Acres is all about, and that we are here and we are vibrant and very much want to be partners with the city. Jeff, have I missed anything?
No, it's just to let you know who we are, what we are, and ready, willing to assist the city.
Sorry, Jeff, we're struggling to hear you on. I think your internet connection is a little off.
Oh, anyway,
you're,
I was just saying.
Yep.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
There you go. It's better.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that I think Donna summed it up nicely. Purposes today is just to let you know who we are, what we do, and that we're here, ready, willing, and able to assist the city of Lethbridge with housing needs in any way we can. And we're more than happy to take any questions.
Great. We will, and thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you, Ms. Kozlovi, for the information. And I was excited that the council approved the recent rezoning for the new multi-unit house. That's exciting, and I also love the, I like to call it Nanata's house. I don't know if you know that one. That's from a show. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's beside the point. And do we have any questions from councillors? I see none. Thank you very much for the presentation, and always will look forward to any updates that we can get from you. I have a resolution here from Councillor Nick Palladino. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee receive the report and presentation as information. Councillor Palladino. Question's been called. All in favor? And passed. Thank you.
Thank you again. See you.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you. We'll move along. I understand the people on Teams that we won't be able to see the presentation right now, but it is going to be available online. So I will call on Darren Martens, CEO of the Galt Museum and Archives. Welcome, Mr. Martens, and again, welcome your bow tie too.
Oki, and thank you very much for this time to speak with you about the Galt Museum and Archives. I'd now like to turn it over to the chairperson of the Galt Museum and Archives, Mr. Vic Mensch. Vic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, okay, and good afternoon, members of the Cultural and Social SPC. Congratulations on your victories in October, and we look forward to working with you for the next few years. Our CEO is part of this group, and he's here to answer all the questions that you may have. For those of you who do not know me, I am Vic Mensch, chairperson of the Museum and Archives Board of Directors. It gives me and the board great pleasure to share with you today two critically important pieces of work that we and the team at the Galt have been working on over the past 18 months. A new framework for how we will evaluate our community engagement and performance, as well as a new strategic plan for the organization, our museum, archives, and fort that will see us through the pandemic and into a brighter, more prosperous future. And we are really excited about that strategic plan that has a slightly different look to it. And I think you have both of those documents in front of you. Part of our package includes a Galt Kpi Report, the result of work by the staff, the board of directors, and the City of Lethbridge team members that captures, first of all, meaningful quantitative and qualitative data that will ensure research and community-based decision-making, that it's incorporated into the ongoing evaluation of the organization fiscally, socially, and culturally. And that this report grew out of the KPMG operational review of the Galt in 2019-2020, which the city had delegated. I would now like to ask, if you have questions about this, you can ask now, or you can hold the questions until later, until I'm finished the presentation. The Galt's new 5-year strategic plan is called Recenter and Redefine, and it's before you. And we're kind of excited about this because we want to just recenter what the Galt is doing and redefine what our services are to the community, and to understand that we are the stakeholders of a lot of the different artifacts that are important to our history. This is a summary document of our strategic framework and impact statements, as well as a more detailed plan which chronicles the history, methodology, development, and outcomes of consultations with the broader community, as well as the priorities and impacts we will deliver. Through our work with Happily Group, we were able to have nearly 200 touch points with community members and organizations in developing the strategic plan. And I think that's a remarkable contribution, because the 200 really encompasses much more than 200 people. The plan acknowledges the hard work that has been done. It sets a direction for the future, and it provides opportunities for growth and development in a sustainable and a responsive manner. Out of this new plan, a new business plan for the organization will be developed and will be shared with you subsequently. As always, we share the stories of the community, and we look forward to engaging with new communities and having the opportunity to tell better and sometimes different stories, ensuring that we are always reflective of our diverse and changing cultural landscape. I would now like to ask members of the SPC if they have any questions about our new strategic plan, or about the Kpi report that we had, that I mentioned earlier. Darren Martens, our CEO, is willing to answer some of those questions, as he's right on location there, or I can also respond to them if you so wish. So that's our presentation, and we are glad to be able to apprise you of some of these initiatives at the Galt.
Thank you, Mr. Mensch, and thank you, Mr. Martens. Do we have questions? Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
No questions so much as thank you for providing a very thorough report with the KPIs and everything like that. I certainly appreciated all the information and recognize the work that went into that. So thank you very much for everything you did provide.
Thank you.
Anyone else for any questions? I see none. You're very efficient in your presentation, and we thank you for bringing that to us. Always been a fan of the Galt Museum and what it brings to the city, and how important it is to preserve our history and tell our stories. And looks like a good strategy moving forward. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I have a resolution from Jennifer Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council receive as information the report and attachments regarding the Galt Museum and Archives' new strategic plan and KPI report. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Favor? That is carried. Wonderful. Coming up next, we'll call on Jillian Bracken, Community Arts and Culture Manager, about the public art work plan. And I'm assuming you're somewhere in the world there.
I am
There you
coming
are.
at you live on Microsoft Teams.
Okay, Jillian, thank you.
Okay, and good afternoon, Chair Campbell and members of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee. I'm here today on behalf of the city's Public Art Committee and the Recreation and Culture Department to request that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council adopt the 2022 to 2025 Public Art Work Plan. Members of the Public Art Committee are in chambers and online today, including Suzanne Lint, who joins us via Teams, and Darren Martens, who is in Council chambers. Next slide, please. Oh, I think we skipped one forward. The 2022 to 2025 Public Art Work Plan includes information on in-progress public art projects and outlines projects to be initiated in the next 4 years. This plan enables a variety of public art projects and programs pursued to create a culturally rich built environment that highlights the city's diversity of perspectives, its heritage, and its unique context. As a result of changes to the public art policy in 2020, the Recreation and Culture Department and Public Art Committee now report annually to Council on work completed in the previous year and present work plans for approval prior to initiating projects. 2022 to 2025 Public Art Work Plan marks the public art program's first 4-year plan. It is aligned with the city's Capital Improvement Program, CIP, which funds the public art program. Next slide, please. Looking back on 2021, this past year was full of experimentation, exploration, and partnerships, advancing many of the public art program's strategic initiatives. Overcoming pandemic-related challenges, the public art program completed 12 projects in 2021 as part of 3 pilots: construction fencing art installations, utility box wrapping, and murals. These projects created safe and accessible outdoor public art for the community that could be enjoyed while strict public health restrictions were in place. These projects also kept local artists working, even when the pandemic was shutting down galleries and eliminating other opportunities. Construction fencing installations displayed the work of numerous students from schools across the city in 2020 and 2021 in partnership with local school districts and the Southern Alberta Art Gallery. These installations took the annual Arts Alive and Well in Our Schools exhibition out into the community amidst pandemic restrictions. Next slide, please. The utility box wrapping pilot installed vinyl art wraps on 6 utility boxes in Galt Gardens and outside of Cwss. All 6 designs were created by local artists, including 2 Indigenous artists. Next slide, please. 5 murals were completed in 2021 as part of a mural pilot project. 5 local artists, including 1 Indigenous artist and 1 Edmonton-based artist, installed the murals. As part of the mural pilot project, the public art program worked to support and inform City Council's review of the land use bylaw. In 2021, Council approved Bylaw 6293, amending the land use bylaw to add a definition of mural and specify that murals fitting that definition do not require development permits. Next slide, please. The 2022 to 2025 work plan continues work on 6 specific objectives first identified in the 2021 public art work plan. These objectives are aligned with public art directives in the Municipal Development Plan, MDP, that seek to enrich artistic resources, heritage, and cultural opportunities, and integrate art and culture into the community in collaborative and inclusive ways. Next slide, please. The 2022 to 2025 Public Art Work Plan includes the continuation of several projects that will be installed in 2022 or 2023. Next slide, please. All of these projects were initially approved in the 2021 Public Art Work Plan. Next slide, please. This new 4-year work plan will see the initiation of 8 new public art projects. These projects provide a variety of opportunities to artists at different stages of development and will add to the diverse array of public art across Lethbridge's cultural landscape. Projects will take place in different areas of the city, north, south, and west, and many are connected to approved CIP projects that will be realized in the next 4 years. Next slide, please. New projects being initiated in the next 4 years are aligned with corporate and council priorities. As described in the MDP, the City of Lethbridge aspires to be a culturally vibrant city. An active and healthy public art program contributes to cultural vibrancy and assists the city in moving closer to achieving public art policy mandates and broader community placemaking objectives. Next slide, please. Over the next 4 years, the public art program will continue to create opportunities for local artists through open calls for small projects, including vinyl wraps, murals, ephemeral or temporary projects, and auxiliary exhibitions. A professional development series will also be offered to help local artists at all stages of practice develop new skills. Next slide, please. The Public Art Committee is committed to undertaking strategic work that will further Council's public art policy mandates. On top of the projects outlined in the work plan, the Public Art Committee has identified several key initiatives that will be pursued in the next 4 years. One key initiative to be undertaken is an update of the Public Art Master Plan. The MDP identifies the need to ensure the future advancement of public art by providing continuous support to the public art program. The MDP recommends that the Public Art Master Plan be regularly updated to ensure that city support for public art is sufficient and that it addresses potential barriers and community needs. The new master plan will also be connected to work currently underway to develop a civic culture plan, a plan that will provide a strategic, comprehensive, and aspirational vision for culture for the City of Lethbridge. Next slide, please. The work plan budget includes funds to continue in progress projects, to initiate new projects, and to cover associated administrative costs. The full work plan budget can be found on pages 22 and 23 of the plan. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, today's request is that the Cultural and Social SPC recommends that Council adopt the 2022 to 2025 Public Art Work Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bracken. I will look for any questions that we have. I will just first ask Ms. Bracken, the 4-year plan, tell us about the advantage of having a 4-year plan before your organization, your group. How important is that?
A 4-year plan affords us an opportunity to plan beyond just a few years. It also aligns the projects that we're doing with the funding that we receive from the CIP, which is allocated to us yearly over the next 4-year cycle. It also makes more sense for public art to do multi-year plans because a lot of our large projects take upwards of, I would say, 18 months from initiating, like releasing a call to artists to respond to actually installing a piece of art. So we have to think across multiple years when we're executing some of these larger projects.
Okay, good, thanks. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Ms. Bracken, for your presentation. One question just comes down to how are we doing with that allotment that you get annually? Things are falling within budget, getting tight. How is that looking?
Thank you for the question. The allocation to public art in the upcoming CIP is the lowest that the program has ever seen. That being said, we do have some carryover funding from previous years that will allow us to continue executing projects at the same, I would say, at the same pace that we have previously, and will allow us to continue some of the programs that we established really in the last 2 years. If we are successful in executing everything that we have identified in this plan, at the end of the 4-year cycle, we'll have no money, and then would be in a position to wait and see what comes in the next CIP cycle. But the way that the public art policy is established, we plan for these kind of ebbs and flows, and I think we've been in a position where there's been a lot going on in the community, which has meant a lot of opportunity for public art. Now we're starting to catch up a little bit as we have made some increased investments in administrative resources to help us execute projects more quickly, and things will kind of level out for the next 4 years, leaving us in a position, like I said, if everything goes as planned, that we won't have any carryover funding after 2026.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Bracken, and members of the committee that are with us, or even not with us today. Really appreciate the presentation. It blew me away to review the past projects and even the most recently completed projects. I remember early on in council, oh, I'm going to get the name wrong. Is it Destinations? The giant wheels. I hope it's called Destinations, but I know that caused a lot of controversy in the community when that was approved by council. And within a year, it was the most photographed site in our community. I'm wondering what the public feedback, if that goes through the committee at all, or the committee members or yourself. When I see the new utility box wraps and the mural projects that I just got goosebumps talking about them, they're really thrilling to me. And I wonder, do we get a lot of public feedback on them? Because they are stunning, in my opinion.
Well, thanks for the question and for the feedback, Councillor Carlson. I think to date, the public feedback that the public art program has received has really been anecdotal and via a lot of the social media promotion that the Allied Arts Council does on the program's behalf. There exists an opportunity with our new public art master plan update to do broader public engagement to get a better idea of what the public thinks about the pieces we have and where they see opportunities for new public art, and kind of what are their values and how do those align with the committee and the city. So I would say to date, the feedback has been anecdotal, but very positive, especially with some of the new things that we've tried with the construction fencing and with the murals, and with the utility box wrap too, because you have local artists often working in partnership with local organizations or local businesses to realize really like beautiful, thoughtful pieces that are one of a kind, and like Departure, which is the piece I think that you were very close, and like that piece, you know, they contribute to a unique identity of Lethbridge, because there are things that you can't find anywhere else that make this place special. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity for us to speak more with the people of the city, and that the public art, the update to the master plan will be that opportunity to start that conversation.
Thank you for that. One thing that was really exciting to me is Departure. Thank you for the reminder there. When that was completed, it really caught fire, took hold. I've noticed actually members of the community are replicating it on their front lawns and as their own pieces of art. It's very cool. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. The artists might come back at them. A final question, if I can, Mr. Chair. Tourism is a big component, or I should say public art can play a big role in tourism. I'm very familiar with Coeur d'Alene. They have quite an amazing public art, and it's really fueled the tourism sector in their community. Are our ties with our tourism industry and Tourism Lethbridge, et cetera, strong, and how are those going?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I immediately hopped to a project that we actually didn't talk about in the work plan because it's not one that public art is funding. I've noticed in the past few years that public art is sort of kind of taking on two roles, where there are projects that we fund and direct and, you know, project manage and install, and then we're often called upon to advise or partner or help administer projects that are funded from other sources. So one of the projects, it's actually two projects currently underway, is at the airport, in partnership with Tourism Lethbridge and Reconciliation Lethbridge and the airport itself, to install two unique pieces of art. One that will be a selfie station that people can come and, you know, snap a selfie in front of, and then another that will be a land acknowledgement territory welcome. So we've started those conversations through those projects, and you'll see too there's some money allocated in this 4-year work plan for a large project most likely exterior to the airport that may present another opportunity for partnership. Opportunity Lethbridge is already a partner on that project, but tourism may want to jump on it as well. So yeah, we've started those conversations, and I know with the new executive director, there's a lot of opportunity there to identify projects that maybe align with their priorities as well as ours, and work collaboratively to realize them.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It looks like a very busy 4 years, so appreciate the information today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I see no further questions. Thank you again, Gillian, for your presentation. I just think over the years of the amazing artwork that I've seen in the city, and from Arts is Alive and Well in schools, just seeing the artists that present, and you're just blown away, and then you see these amazing murals and wraparounds. We have a very amazing city with very talented artists, but I thank you for your information today. I have a resolution from Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend the City Council adopt the 2022-2025 Public Artwork Plan as in Attachment 1. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Further thank the Ms. Bracken and the members of the committee for presenting today. Appreciate the update, and as I said, it looks like a very bold and aggressive 4 years. I look forward to it going to council and hearing their thoughts on it as well. So unless there's any further comments or debate, I will call for the vote.
Any other comments or debate? I see none. Question's been called. All in favor? That passes. Thank you. Moving right along. Okay, I will call upon, if I see here, it's Rich Thiessen, Debbie Deek, and Cindy Voss with the CWSS Advisory Committee members talking about the governance model. If we have those people online.
Yes, this is Debbie, and I'm currently the chair of the CWSS Advisory Committee, and I welcome my colleagues with me here today, Richard Thiessen and Cindy Voss. Great. I would like to begin by congratulating on your recent election and re-election, the chair, Mark Campbell, of this committee, and councillors Jen Schimpf-Rempel, Nick Palladino, and Jeff Carlson. It is indeed a privilege to be able to share with you the work that this committee has done to date and where we are currently at in moving forward. Next slide, please. To provide some background, phase 2 of the Community Wellbeing and Safe Strategy was to create a community governed task force. And this was grounded and reinforced in the collective impact model. This indeed happened. And as you can see from the graphic on the left side of your screen, this became the CWSS Advisory Committee. This group is comprised of key community stakeholders, decision makers in their own organizations. They represent great diversity and a very inclusive group. So we have worked with city administration and the advisory committee in the last 18 months have integrated and consolidated approximately $10 million in funding to coordinate a network of social service programs in the city. And systems have been revised. They've been looked at carefully to ensure that, if at all possible, duplication of services are not happening, and very much outcome-based with performance management processes secured and in place. So that has been the mandate of the CWSS Advisory Committee, as you see at the top of the graphic. Next slide, please. So this committee has successfully allocated operational programs and have them come to fruition, which includes the integrated coordinated access, the adaptive case management, and the permanent supportive housing consortium. Now, in progress initiatives that have had funding allocated, the Blackfoot Resource Hub, community reports and studies, which include the Qualitative Addiction Recovery Report and the Shenla Poverty Report. These are key initiative milestones that we are proud of that we have successfully managed to have come to be to date. Next slide, please. So we have made great strides, but we recognize that we need to move forward and define a governance model and a term of reference for our new committee, the way that it will stand in the future. And we need to detail terms of reference. So these have to ensure that there is diverse representation within the committee, and we need to make cohesive community-derived solutions and strategies. So there has been, next slide please, much work done on this. And to show you the timeline that has governed our work, so we have done our best in spite of the restrictions caused through the pandemic to move our work forward. So through May to July, different governance models were looked at, introduced, and evaluated. We had to align the options contained within each governance model to our collective impact and what it was that we wanted to have happen for this community and how it was going to happen. So a framework for draft terms of reference a framework was created during that time period. Near the end of the summer and moving into the fall, a smaller working group was established from the CWSS. It became apparent that we needed to have a smaller group that could move this work forward more quickly, bring it back to the larger group to have approved and have consensus established and move forward. So during that time period, research was done on best practices. Draft terms of reference were created. We brought these forward to the larger group in November. Then in December, the smaller governance working group again met with the city clerk, the city solicitor. Further revisions were made to the terms of reference, and we worked closely with members of the CSD, and a follow-up meeting with the working group was held to confirm next steps. So we realized that there were 7 key questions that needed to be answered relative to the terms of reference, and these were brought to the committee on January the 10th, so very recently. This was to the entire CWSS committee, and we had to discuss and affirm the governance model that we would move forward under and agree to the terms of reference. Where we sit right now is that we are awaiting approval from members of the committee with respect to the terms of reference and the revisions that were made to them during that meeting on January the 10th. So we have, next slide, please. We find ourselves needing to affirm 3 main structures in moving forward: the terms of reference for the committee, the governance model under which we will operate, and we need to confirm who indeed will be members of this committee. We need to determine, and we asked for the committee members currently to indicate if they would be willing to commit to continue working on this committee, and do we indeed have representation from the stakeholders that we need to have in terms of an inclusive form of practice and moving forward in this city. So in the interim, our committee remains as is. This group will become the Community Wellbeing and Safety Committee once our terms of reference and governance model are finalized. We hope to have this accomplished and be able to report back to this group at your meeting on February the 17th. That is our current state. So as indicated in the next slide, please, are there any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I just want to applaud this committee for, first of all, being formed, and also the fact that there's such a diverse group of people dealing with the many issues that we have with this organization. Generally speaking, can you take us through the process and sort of the challenges that all of you sort of dealt with and how we got to this point? I mean, it's kind of a broad question, but if you can just sort of say what keeps you going to make terms of reference happen.
Well, I have to be very truthful with you, Honorable Chair. This pandemic has not been conducive to having the kinds of regular meetings we would like to have had, but in spite of that, we soldiered on. And certainly having the structure created of this smaller working group, a smaller working group from the large CWSS committee that could commit to the time and commit to the research and the practice, and to also rely on staff from the CSD to guide us, to give us support, information, and be that backbone organization that we required to carry forward. And again, with having communication, certainly electronically, being brought back to members of the committee for continual affirmation, recommendations that were made, needing to be voted on and approved, we were able to accomplish a lot of that virtually. And now, of course, our meetings have moved into a virtual environment such as yours here today. I don't know if I've satisfactorily answered your question. If Rich or Cindy would like to add anything to that, please do.
Sure, if they would like to. If not, that's fine. No, I just know it's a challenge, and but you guys have really done a remarkable job to get to this point. So I guess that's not really a question. Just I'm commending you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for the update and information. Quick question through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if the committee can answer or if our administration can answer. What is the process for approving the TOR? Will that have to come back to this committee and then be recommended to council?
I'm not sure if I'm going to answer that or if Michael is going to answer that, Michael Fox, but I know that the terms of reference need to be approved by members of this committee before they can go forward and be operationalized. Michael, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Through the chair, can I just get you to repeat the question? Marty just showed up and I didn't hear the full question.
Councillor Carlson, do you want to repeat the question?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry, Mr. Fox. I'm just curious about the process going forward. I assumed that the terms of reference would have to have council approval and ratification, but maybe that's not the case. I was sort of expecting to see the draft version here at this committee and then recommend it going forward to council, but maybe I'm misunderstanding who needs to approve those terms of reference.
So through the chair, council last year asked us to get the advisory committee to move forward with creating this task force or committee and suggest a terms of reference so that council could look at it and approve it. And that's what will be going forward on the February meeting. And I believe that'll be coming here, and then the SPC will be asked to take it to council and approve moving forward with this new model.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Palladino.
I'm curious, Ms. Bracken, if you can answer this. It's just a curious question, a curiosity question, I should say. But you went from a larger group to a smaller group, and I know that's how things get done. Can you give me an idea what those numbers were, participants?
Are you asking me how many people were members of the smaller working group?
Yes, and the larger one before that.
Okay, so members of the CWSS Advisory Committee and all, my goodness, I don't have an exact number to give you because there are representatives there from such a broad-based group. I would say there would be probably 20 plus members on that larger group. And who moved this work forward were 3 members from that group with support from CSD, as well as the city clerk and the city solicitor, and brought our work forward back to that larger group for consultation, consideration, revision, recommendations. Is that the answer to your question,
So
Mr. Pelton?
I think so. I think I heard you went from a roughly 20 to down to 3?
To get the work done and move it forward. It was unwieldy to try and accommodate the work that needed to be done in that large of a group. And we had to be very also aware that the people that are present in that larger group are key individuals in their own organizations and could not commit to the time that needed to be done to research governance models, to explore terms of reference, to have those be aligned with the differing governance models that we examined. It would just not be doable in that size of a group with the people that we had there.
I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Fox, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, to Councillor Palladino, I just want to also confirm that it did go back to the larger group of 20 and was revised and revisited. So it wasn't just the recommendations, just the small working group just refined it, got all the information together so then we could move forward with the right information and recommendations to the larger group.
Are you good? Councillor Carlson?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question moving forward. Is approving the TOR, it seemed to be a very main focus of the presentation today, is getting that terms of reference approved. And if we're looking at the timeline, now it'll come back to this group in 4 weeks and then go to council weeks after that. Is that an okay timeline for the committee, or is there a way we can streamline that a bit? And I guess my suggestion would be if approving those terms of reference sooner rather than later would be helpful, perhaps the committee could recommend that they go directly to council rather than having to wait to come to this committee. Just a thought. I'm seeing some nodding, so maybe I'll just ask if the committee felt that a quicker timeline would be better.
Mr. Chair, and through you, I respectfully see that Richard Thiessen has his hand raised, and I believe he would like to address this. And I'm not sure who else has their hand raised, but I would like Richard to have the opportunity, please, to respond.
I just want to, I appreciate that, Jeff, and I think that there would be some, if there was a way to speed it up without skipping steps, that'd be fine. But I just want to assure the standing committee that work is continuing, that the rest of the work is continuing, and our consultations are still going on. There is some real advantage to finishing this work because of the work with other committees that are already standing in the city. This is integral into combining all of our work and coordinating all that work. But I don't want to make it sound like the work stops until we get this approved. But on the other hand, there's some real advantage to get it done. So without skipping steps, I don't want to create more chaos. But if there was a way to do that, that would be fine. But just be assured, work is going on.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that.
So it's fair to say that they're not quite completed, but that they still need some time. Mr. Fox?
Yeah, through the chair, I think that if the committee would like to direct it straight to council, that would speed up the timelines. And as far as administration is concerned, we don't have any issue with that.
Mr. Sarsfield, do you have a comment?
So the terms of reference may not necessarily have to be approved by council. It depends on what model is chosen. If it ends up being an administrative committee, which it was originally proposed to be, it would not be approved by council. It could come to them for information purposes, but would not need their approval. So we would have to wait to see what the model is before we determine if it needs approval by council. I think it's better that the process continue to be followed. It comes to the Standing Policy Committee to make sure that what is being followed is the process that is recommended.
Does that satisfy the members of the committee or the committee presenting today?
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, if I may, I believe Cindy Voss has something that she would like to say in this discussion.
Ms. Voss?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to kind of bring to light too, because responding to Councillor Palladino's comment, we did reach out to the entire committee and asked for volunteers for the smaller group, because we did feel it extremely important to keep everybody as involved as possible. So I just don't want that perception to be that was just kind of the three that took the bull by the horn, so to speak. It was open to everyone, and with time restraints and restrictions, that's kind of what we ended up with. And it was from that spirit of knowing what is going on with some of the other working groups and task forces that we really felt it important to get this timeline moving quicker than it was. And that's why I appreciate this little bit of extra time that we're being given, so we can, as a committee, bring forward the most constructive and effective structure possible. Thank you.
Anyone else want to add anything? As I understand, this was going to be at an arm's length committee to council. Correct, Mr. Surf? Yeah.
So the original motion that was approved by council was it continued to be an arm's length committee from council. So that would mean the approval of the committee terms of reference would not be required unless a change is proposed.
Mr. Fox?
Yeah, through the chair, I agree with Mr. Sarsfield that it may not have to be approved through council, but it will be an important enough issue that I think it would have to be discussed at council, so all councillors understand how this committee is moving forward. So I do think it is important that we do have a little bit of discussion at council with it.
Okay, but as it stands right now, we'll just go with the resolution as information. And oh, Mayor Higgin, you're online.
I am. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just a question, and most of it has been answered by Director Fox, but I'm not sure if this could be answered or not, or who can answer this. I'm just curious to know, with the three that were in the group, took it back to the committee as a whole, if there was unanimous support within this. Can someone answer that?
I would like to answer that, Mayor Higgin, if I may. We are in process of that. We've been back and forth with this and revising it several times. So this is the last revision that has gone forward to the group, and we're waiting to hear back from them in terms of their vote on the terms of reference, as well as their commitment to staying on this committee and moving forward. And that is the current state we are in. And we hope to have that affirmed and able to be relayed back on February 17th.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Ms. Deeks. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Any other comments? So as I can understand it, we will just pass this as information, and then we'll see what happens after that. Okay, that's fair. So I have a resolution from Councillor Palladino. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council receive as information the report on the Community Wellbeing and Safety Strategy Governance Model. Councillor Palladino. Question? Yeah, question's been called. Everyone in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for the great work you're doing.
And thank you for having us.
Anytime, except next Thursday. Okay. No, I don't know. I don't know. Let's just move on. All right. Coming up, our next, Mr. Thompson, General Manager of the Community Social Development, talking about the roles and responsibilities of the Community Social Development. Mr. Thompson, thanks for being here. Okay. Microphone.
Thank you, sir. The roles and responsibility documents that are attached to this agenda item are designed to help City Council and the community understand the specific roles and responsibilities of City Council and city administration relating to addressing social issues. Also, where social issue funding comes from, the grant allocation and management process, and also some general information about social issues impacting the City of Lethbridge and how we are trying to address them. I encourage all members of council and the community to review the documents and forward any questions you have to City Administration for clarification. Unlike many municipalities, the City of Lethbridge does not own or manage affordable or social housing, nor do we deliver social programs and services. Our role is to coordinate, convene, and facilitate to achieve our social, or to address our social issues. The vast majority of our social issues in our community that our community experiences are not the mandate of the City of Lethbridge, but the Government of Alberta through various ministries such as Community and Social Services, Alberta Health, Addiction and Mental Health, Children's Services, Seniors and Housing, and others. So this is simply an information package for both council and the community to review and get back to us if they have any questions or concerns.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Are there any members of the committee that would like to ask any questions of Mr. Thompson? I see none. I just, again, I want to say it's amazing how much work you do, and I've seen you around a lot doing a lot of work, so I appreciate all of the things that you bring before us, and we had a great orientation as well with your information, so it's an incredible amount of work that's been put together, so I thank you for that. Oh, sorry, I see Councillor Carlson has a question.
Sorry, Mr. Chair,
That's
I
okay.
was struggling to unmute myself and put up my hand at the same time. Thanks, Mr. Thompson, for this information. One thing that stood out at me in the information provided was, and of course I closed it so I can't read it, but I believe it said, unlike many other municipalities, the City of Lethbridge does not directly provide. Oh, you're calling it up, so I don't even have to try and struggle to remember. That I can't see it still, but anyways, can you maybe unpack that a bit for me, and how we relate to other communities, in Alberta, or the rest of the country, and further to that is, are those municipalities that do directly provide services doing a better job or a worse job than we are?
Councillor Carlson, great question. So it is really a mixed bag, not only across Alberta, but across Canada. There are municipalities that do own and manage social and affordable housing. And of course, in Lethbridge, our role is, again, to facilitate, convene, and coordinate and create that fertile soil for affordable housing and social housing units to be built. Same with social services. So, you know, Medicine Hat, even the surrounding municipalities around Lethbridge, they'll take their municipal dollars and typically combine them with their FCSS dollars, and they will deliver services such as counseling and so forth and other programs. And what that means, though, it's a completely different business model, because you will then hire, as city, you will hire city employed staff to deliver those services. And whereas, of course, we take our dollars and we give them out as grants to the community, and then we simply take that grant management role. You know, that's a good question. Are they doing a better job? Are they delivering better service? The quality of the service, I think, we have not measured that here in Lethbridge, but at the end of the day, my belief is let the experts do their job. right? And so if you have experts in your community, be it delivering supportive housing, delivering counseling and so forth, that, you know, the question is, should the city of Lethbridge take over that role? That's a pretty big question. I don't have the answer for you right here and right now, but I will defer the question a bit to our director, Mike Fox, and the reason I'm doing that is Mike has extensive experience with other municipalities across Canada and has seen those different models, so he may be able to weigh in on this question.
Through the chair, thank you, Marty. And I would say that we do about the same job as any other community. The difference is that we coordinate and convene these areas and allow the provincial government to fulfill a bigger role. And in other communities that actually take on some of these housing needs, they are fulfilling that provincial role. So it makes the province more of an arm's length away. But in comparison, I would say Lethbridge is doing a good job through Lethbridge Housing Association. You have Green Acres. You have lots of these good facilities and people that are stepping up and filling that need. And the associations are doing a very good job in Lethbridge. So in saying that, I'm not saying that any municipalities are doing a poor job, but I would say that it's very comparable.
And thank you for that, Mr. Fox and Mr. Thompson. And that, I guess, mostly you just touched on housing. I was thinking of some of the other issues as well. But in housing, one of the things I do hear all the time is and whether it be factual or not factual, is why is Medicine Hat done such a better job at reducing homelessness and poverty, et cetera, than Lethbridge? And so that was kind of the curious question I had on that, but maybe we can discuss that in greater detail at a further time. The other question I had was, and you've left the graph up for me, thank you, Mr. Thompson or Mr. Sarsfield, whoever did, the 2% municipal funding. How does that relate to other communities? Recently, we heard that Lethbridge spends or invests, I'll put it that way, far less than most communities in social services. Is that true?
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. So I'm going to reference the KPMG study that indicated that Lethbridge spends $56 per capita on social issues compared to, I believe it was around $237 compared to other communities. Now I do not have the details on and the methodology on how KPMG explored that or analyzed that. I can tell you though that the $56 is not correct, because in the analysis for the city of Lethbridge, they included the community services business, the entire community services finance business department in that calculation, and the cemetery's budget. And so as we prepare for the upcoming budget, through our finance department, we calculated that the per capita contribution for the city of Lethbridge is around that $20 per capita, but that does not include the recent injection of the $5 million for the Affordable Housing Capital Grant. If you include that, and I apologize because I don't have the exact figures in front of me, it works out to about $36 per capita that our municipality contributes compared to the provincial average, which I believe again is $237 per capita.
So, Mr. Thompson, thank you for those numbers. So, if what I heard is correct, the true figures are actually worse than the KPMG report highlighted?
Yes, sir.
Good to know. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to Mr. Thompson. or Mr. Fox, how are we ensuring that people aren't falling through the cracks because, or with our different service providers, that kind of thing? I mean, we have a responsibility to coordinate and facilitate. How are we ensuring that needs are being met throughout our community in our coordination and facilitation of that?
Another great question. One of the number one things that we heard when we did our needs assessment is the extreme difficulty in navigating the system for the vulnerable population. And we often hear this from folks who, you know, if you have parents of someone with autism, and how much, you're if you're educated and you have no, brain injuries and so forth, how difficult the system is to navigate to find the right services. And I always say to people, can you imagine if you are homeless and you do suffer from mental health issues, from a brain injury, physical issues, how difficult it would be to navigate and find those services. And that was loud and clear in the needs assessment, and it's something we commonly hear across Canada. And so one of our pilot projects that we're working on as part of the CWSS is our Integrated Coordinated Access System. And we're working very hard behind the scenes to create that single portal where clients can come in, no matter what your level of vulnerability, that you can be assessed and triaged and to the right resources at the right time and the right level of need. And I'd be happy at some point in time to give a presentation on our Integrated Coordinated Access System. No, it's not perfect. No such system exists in Canada right now. But we're also trying to leverage technology through a new project called Cwss, which is a partnership that includes the University of Toronto and Microsoft on creating technology that also helps us and helps folks connect to the right services. So there are gaps, and there are people falling through the cracks. And because the vast majority of services are delivered through multiple ministries of the provincial government and through many nonprofits, addressing those gaps is always going to be a challenge, but I'm happy to say we're trying to tackle this, and I think we're making progress.
Thank you very much. So do you, and would you foresee then our coordination and facilitation taking a different role or looking different as we move into the future?
I think, playing that, the municipality, I think, is in a really good position to remain in that convene, facilitate, and coordinate position. We have a direct connection and line to the other levels of government. You are, as council, the local decision makers. You have strong connections to the community, to the Chamber of Commerce, and to industry. And so I think the municipality, and through the support of council, I think you're well suited and well placed in being that convener and that facilitator. Allowing mayor and council to connect with, for example, the Ministry of Addiction and Mental Health. You play a powerful advocacy role, and I encourage you again to read those documents where it does outline council's role and the impact you have. And so to answer your question, I think that convene, facilitate role is a very powerful role, especially for council, and I think the municipality is well suited to do that work. And let the experts in the field deliver those services and allow the municipality to be that coordinator, that convener, and to generate collective impact using the community governance model as the decision maker. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson, for that information. And I have resolution from Jennifer Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council receive as information the report on the roles and responsibilities of community social development. Ms. Schmidt-Rempel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Mr. Thompson, for bringing this information to our committee. Certainly, I'll echo the comments that Chair Campbell had mentioned, is that this is great information to have, and the orientation session we had on it as well is very valuable for us. With that, I will call the question.
Not yet. What do we have? Oh, we have, Councillor Carlson.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we have a comment, remark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fully in support of bringing this to Council's attention. Mr. Thompson also did mention in his presentation that this is an important document, not just for Council, but for our community. I hope that it doesn't just go to Council and sort of die there on the consent agenda. It won't die there, but be sort of hidden there on the consent agenda. I'm hoping that we are also looking at ways to get this information out to community, because I think Mr. Thompson's right. There's a lot of confusion on who is responsible for what, and not just amongst elected officials, but throughout our community. So I'm hopeful that we can find ways as well to sort of present this information to the broader community in general.
I think Mr. Fox has a response to that.
A response to my debate. I look forward to
Through the chair, we will be putting all the information on the website, and also making sure that all the resources are available for anybody that has questions. And CSD staff is also available to point them out if they have specific questions. But we really encourage the community to visit the CSD on the City of Lethbridge website and read all the different documents that are there.
Extra, read all about it. I'm hoping there's members of the media present. If not, perhaps we could go a little bit further. I see Mr. Cool is online, and perhaps we could put out a PSA of some type, or just something to, because we do produce a lot of this material, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But maybe if you say, look how good the water is, come read this. Just a thought. Thank you.
Any other comments? I see none. I believe the question has been called. All in favor? That passes. Thank you so much. Yep. Moving on to submissions, and this is from Marty Thompson, who is still here. Thank you. This is CWSS funding allocation approval for an Indigenous resource hub, and I know this is basically just to we have money already available, and this is just the approval of the money that's was already allocated to go to the this hub, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about this? So it doesn't appear. I mean, this is basically, sorry. Oh,
my hand's up.
Councillor Middleton Hope.
Oh, I do not see that. Okay, Councillor Middleton Hope.
Yeah, to Mr. Fox through the chair, I don't see a sunset clause in this.
Mr. Fox.
Yeah, through the chair. This is funding that's provided through the federal government, and I'll let Marty Thompson talk about the length of the agreement on for this funding allocation.
Thank you.
Councillor Middleton Hope, the original allocation was made through council last year, and it's a 4-year term. It's actually an annual allocation where the City of Lethbridge has the right to renew it annually based on performance. So in alignment with this funding will be an agreement with performance management, KPIs, and outcomes defined, and that will be reviewed. And if all is going well, it will be renewed up to a maximum for a total of 3 years.
So when is the expiry date?
So again, the original allocation for all of the agreements started January 2021 for a 4-year allocation. We are, this one is a year later, and so it would be 3 years of funding. Again, the annual renewal is based on performance management and renewal.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. Councillor Middleton Hope, were you finished your questions?
Yes, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for that. I had a similar question as Councillor Middleton Hope. Mr. Thompson, help me out here. This is, I'm just going to use round figures. This is 500,000 a year, or this is 500,000 for the next 3 years?
This is 500,000 annually per year. And the funding comes, is funding from the federal government. The majority of it is from the Reaching Home Homelessness Indigenous funding stream, with some funding from the provincial homelessness program.
Okay, thank you for that. And have those outcomes or KPIs been developed yet? I believe this was, sorry, Mr. Thompson, did you say this was originally approved a year ago for 1 year, and this is this year's funding?
Yes, last year it was, the funding was approved and allocated to the Cwss Friendship Society. But because of unforeseen organizational issues and they had some key staff that are no longer with the organization, Cwss was unable to fulfill the agreement. And so the City of Lethbridge engaged in a procurement process, an RFP, to solicit a new service provider, and the Blood Tribe was the successful proponent. And so we are in the process right now of refining the agreement and the deliverables and the targets and outcomes.
Okay, thank you. I guess my only question of that is if we don't have the agreement or the outcomes or any of the measurables in place, I'm wondering about cart before the horse. Do we not wait till we have the agreement ready to be executed, or is that in process? I'm just trying to figure out timing.
Yes, for the process is that that we seek approval, of course, through the Community Wellbeing and Safety Committee, and then go to Council for approval for the allocation. Once approved, then we proceed with the actual contract and agreement. That's the process that's been followed by the City of Lethbridge for many years.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess when I read the document, I misunderstood. I thought the way it was presented, it was that this was a 3-year agreement till 2024, I believe was what was, it's in my head anyways, maybe I misread it, for the 500,000, but this will be 5,000 a year for 3 years. Is that what I'm hearing instead?
Just it's roughly 500,000 per year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Mr. Thompson, just kind of following up on what Councillor Carlson had said, because I'm new here. Do the KPIs, as well as those deliverables and targets, ever come back to Council for us to review?
So we process an agreement and, of course, use our solicitor's office to ensure that the agreements are in place. The actual agreements have never come back to Council, but they are a public document that anybody can see at any point in time.
Thank you.
Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Mr. Thompson, Marty, do I read this right? Is there some expediency here?
Yes, sir. We're in the perfect world, the service would have started to be delivered January 1st. And so, yes, time is of the essence to get this allocation approved and get the agreements in place to have the service start to be delivered.
And a subsequent question, which is sort of in tandem with Councillor Carlson's comment. How much is the city funding this directly? You've indicated that it's the pool of money is coming from a variety of different locations. What's our skin in the game?
The City of Lethbridge has no skin in the game, to use your term. No City of Lethbridge tax dollars whatsoever are being used to fund this program.
Good. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions? All right, I have a resolution. I'll pass this to Councillor Carlson. Before I read the resolution, I just want to point out that initially this was called the Indigenous Resource Hub Services, and that we've changed it to the Blackfoot Resource Hub, given that we are on Blackfoot territory and the money is going to the Blood Tribe Kpi Nation. So that's why that is the Blackfoot Resource Hub. I've also added the expiration date of this allocation to December 31st, 2024. So, be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council adopt the following recommendations of the Community Wellbeing and Safety Strategy CWSS Advisory Committee. Number 1, approve $496,248 in annual funding leveraged from Outreach Support Services Initiative, OSSI, and Reaching Home to be allocated to the Blood Tribe Kpi Nation to deliver the Indigenous, that should be the Blackfoot Resource Hub services. And 2, authorize the city manager and city clerk to execute any further documents as may be required with regards to the $496,248 of funding for the Blackfoot Resource Hub services set to expire December 31st, 2024. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate those amendments to the resolution. I'm just wondering, in light of questions from members of the committee and councillors in attendance today, if it would be possible to attach, when this goes to council, any of the agreements or any of the information that council was sort of questioning today, if they were in place. I'm wondering if that's a possibility, because I'm sure that if members of the committee were having some questions around what the agreement is and when it will be signed and what it says, members of council may also have those questions, or at least want to know that they're in place. I'm wondering if that's possible.
City manager is online.
Yeah, I would defer to Mr. Fox and Mr. Thompson, but I would suspect that's possible.
Mr. Fox?
Through the chair, I believe it is possible. However, it probably wouldn't be executed before we get direction from council. We could give you a draft agreement on what we're working on, but it wouldn't be solidified until we get the approval from council. So it's a different process, but we can provide you with a draft document.
I agree, but if we're recommending that that the city manager and city clerk are signing something, it's kind of incumbent on us to know what we're directing them to sign. So a draft would be excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? I see none.
And if there's nothing further, Mr. Chair, just appreciate the work that's been done on this. I know that this is that we've had some speed bumps in the past, and I do echo Councillor Middleton Hope's comments that there is some expediency needed here. So I appreciate the work that's been done, and I hope we have my colleagues' support. With that, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? That passes. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to another submission, again from Mr. Thompson, with the Go Friendly Transportation Program. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Thompson, about that?
No, sir. The document speaks for itself. I can entertain any questions, but the service is up and running. All is going well. We've heard back from the senior organizations that they are very pleased with the service and how it's moved forward. So I entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Thompson? I see nothing here.
Oh,
sorry,
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Mr. Carlson.
Hey, thanks, Chair Campbell. Just one quick question through you to Mr. Thompson, if I may. We had a lot of comments while this program was not in operation. People saying, how am I supposed to get to the senior center, et cetera, et cetera. This program is only possible if it connects seniors in our community to FCSS programs. And so I'm curious why people were wanting the service when many of those programs were already canceled because of COVID. And I wonder if we monitor to ensure that the program is being used for what it's intended, only because I would hate to have our funding in jeopardy if it was found to be not being used to access those FCSS programs. So it was just a bit of an oddity to me that people were complaining that there was no Go-friendly service when most of the programming had already been canceled due to COVID. So it just sort of triggered a bit of a query in my head. Can anyone help me understand that?
Councillor Carlson, yes, that you are absolutely correct that FCSS funding is not allowed to be used for general transportation services for any organization. It is only allowed to be used if the transportation is connecting the client to an FCSS eligible and funded program. And so, for example, you couldn't use this service to get a ride to the seniors organization, for example, to say to have lunch or to access a program that's not eligible through FCSS funding. And that was, I think, a misunderstanding throughout the community and the senior organizations for years. And so that was part of our performance management processes to make sure that our senior organizations knew and understood the requirements around this, because again, it's a good service and we didn't want to jeopardize the funding based on that. And so that was part of the new model, or the work that we completed with our senior organizations to ensure they understood that, and now to put processes and performance management processes in place to make sure that the service is being used for what it is intended to use. So all landed well. It was a good process to go through, and it's back up and running.
Excellent. Mr. Thompson, I really appreciate that response. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Thompson, just one quick follow-up question. Now that it's been re-implemented, have we gotten any feedback on the service? And is there a plan to collect feedback on how things are going? Just because we did get so many comments on it through the election with it being canceled.
Yes, I do have some feedback. And again, as part of any of our agreements and our performance management processes, we will collect ongoing feedback and metrics for all of our contracts. But the feedback I have so far is that directly from our senior organizations, the operations of the shuttle have been going well. Many members have expressed their gratitudes towards staff for the service and how challenging it was to arrange transportation when the shuttle was not operational. The senior organizations also stated that the partnership between their organization and the City of Lethbridge has resulted in significant cost savings for the service, primarily savings on fuel. The senior organizations are concerned with the rising number of COVID cases, and as organizations have decided that once ICU cases reach 125, that the shuttle will reduce capacity down to 5 participants to transport. So again, overall, the feedback has been positive. Always concerns about COVID and the transportation of clients, and but thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Thompson? Seeing none, I have a resolution from Councillor Palladino. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council receive this report as information. Councillor Palladino.
I call the question on that.
Questions called. All in favor? And that carries. Final submission, Josh Martin and Monica Lowen, Resocial Services Integration Group update. This is coming from Mr. Fox. I understand you have explanation. You'd like to pass forward?
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, I wanted to speak to this one where we added an administrative note on the back. It's on the agenda, and I encourage anybody from the public, media, and council to read it. It just clarifies that at the last SSIG meeting on February 10th, the SIG, they sent a letter to the Social and Cultural SPC, and administratively, we put a cover sheet on that. So there was 2 reports that came to council, and the report, the MIN report, had a few recommendations that were brought forward. They were administrative recommendations, and I just wanted to clarify that the SSIG did not recommend moving forward with motels, hotels, and Alpha House and the provincial government. That was administration that moved forward on that. The SSIG did want us to look at an emergency sober shelter. Although that did not meet the funding, administration worked with the province and Alpha House to make sure that we had enough spaces for an emergency shelter over this past cold snap. But we continue to work with SSIG on a sober shelter and other amenities that are in need in Lethbridge. But I encourage everybody to read this, and it clarifies the intent. Moving forward, we will not be putting cover reports on any of the external arm's length groups reporting. They will submit that through the clerk's office just to avoid the confusion that happened.
Thank you very much for the clarification and the understanding that we have now. Any questions on this matter? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Fox, I really appreciate the explanation, because I was struggling to understand this report that was in front of us. So thank you. Now it has a lot of clarity. I have a question then. We appreciate the work that the SSIG does in the community and their recommendations. But if there are, and I do understand that should come to council clean. I agree. That's their recommendation. But if there are challenges, how will that be identified to the committee or council? Because you identified that administration said these are our recommendations. So how is that going to happen? Will there just be 2 reports that could be in conflict, or hopefully in consensus? But I'm just curious how it's going to work going forward then.
Sure, good question. And through the chair, it will be coming forward just like any other group that brings a report through the corporate office. They'll submit their letter or report through the corporate office, and administratively we will bring a report saying if we support or have alternate recommendations, and they'll be dealt with separately, and so it will be less confusing. The chairs of the committee will also speak to their letter, and administration will speak to ours. And this way that it will be 2 separate reports, and that way it should have less confusion around who is making what recommendation and for the reasons. And I do want to also clarify that with the SSIG, we had a lot of good conversations, and they were very worried about emergency shelter. This is just to clarify some of the discussions and the recommendations came forward. The report was changed at short notice coming in because we were working with Alpha House and the province to make sure that we had ample room for the cold snap that was coming in.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Fox. I appreciate that. I think we were under a crunch. I get it. I hope it didn't cause too much confusion or any rifts, but I appreciate that we've taken some learnings and we'll move forward in a different manner. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see none. I have a resolution from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee receive this report as information.
And yes, thank you very much, Mr. Fox, for the clarification on this. I echo those comments of Councillor Carlson. It certainly does, it provided some clarification for me as well. I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? That passes. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. And we are adjourned.
Thanks all. Take care.